is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
All right. Happy Sunday morning to you, Sports Dad. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Are you kidding? Full day of college football?
Dude, I love how college football has decided, and the networks.
Yep.
This is the last weekend of only college football until next year. The NFL takes over. So let's do a couple of top 10 teams on a Sunday night. Let's put the Bill Belichick North Carolina debut on a Monday night. And then we can kind of get out of the way from the NFL in those times.
And you also started with, Ohio State and Texas. Now, the game might not have been as good as people thought it was going to be, but you started with that at 11 a.m. Now, Arch
Manning didn't join the party at 11 a.m.
No, and the afternoon games were a little bit disappointing, but then LSU Clemson last night, and it's we are off and running football. As far as meaningful football games for the most part, and next Sunday, baby. Or actually Thursday night, right? With our event.
That's right. Yeah, actually, a couple things before we get into this will be an NFL Takes edition of Purple Daily with some Vikings sprinkled in here for you guys, because I bring to you 32 NFL teams ranked and put into tiers. So we'll go through those. You can tell me if you strongly agree, disagree. You'll find out where I have the Vikings, and then we can go from there. But this Thursday at Running Aces, which is up. If you've never been there, it's an unbelievable place. They just did a multi-million-dollar renovation. They have a 53-foot LED screen. I believe it's the largest continuous LED screen. And you can watch, in the state of Minnesota, you can watch football on this. So Thursday night, when the football season officially kicks off, we're going to be there for our next Purple Daily Unplugged event. And it's free to attend. But we do ask that you RSVP because there is a limited amount of people. Go to scorenorth.com/unplugged. There are still some spots available. Scorenorth.com/unplugged. Running Aces. Everyone who attends gets a $10 gaming voucher, $15 food and beverage voucher, horse racing program, and it's Running Aces, 35 north of the Twin Cities. Tons of parking, big parking lot right off the freeway. So we're looking forward to kicking off the season with another Unplugged event on Thursday. And a shout out to MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, Judd.
Absolutely, because guess what? MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air lives up to its name by doing everything that I just talked about, not just doing it, but doing it very well, serving the community for more than 100 years. In fact, how about this? If you're thinking about going ductless, give them a call. They're a Mitsubishi Elite Diamond contractor for ductless, and they know what they're doing. If you have an older home, which a lot of us do with no ductwork, that's no problem. MSP specializes in smart and efficient ductless installs. These systems aren't cheap, so you want it done right, and MSP is going to help you make the best decision for your home and your budget. Quiet, efficient, no ugly renovations, just comfort where it's needed. MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air, 651-615-4292, or call MSP.com. Call MSP.com.
Are you ready for 32 NFL teams ranked and put into tiers?
Football.
Absolutely.
Let's party here. We're going to start at the bottom, and then we'll work our way up through the rankings and the tiers. So we'll start at the very, 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 very bottom of the league, which I'm calling this tier the Keep Refreshing Tankathon tier. Tankathon.com will tell you who has the number one overall pick all throughout the season in all the different sports. And so I've got 32 New Orleans Saints, 31 New York Jets, 30 Tennessee Titans. In fairness to I think the Saints have just kind of run into, this was a long time coming, post Drew Brees, post Sean Payton.
Yeah.
They've had crazy salary cap issues for like 8 to 10 years, and they're getting their comeuppance here, and they're just, they have a quarterback battle that like is just a battle between career backup quarterbacks. So they're the worst team in the NFL going in here. The Jets trying to build a new culture with Aaron Glenn. We'll see if Justin Fields, basically with his last shot to be a starter, if he can do anything. The Titans are a little bit different because they do have Cam Ward, and maybe Cam Ward plays well enough to spark them. Kind of feels like they're a year or two away roster-wise, but those are the three worst teams in this exercise for me.
And I would say of those three teams, the Saints are the one team that will embrace the ability to run a tankathon every single day and say, do we have the top pick? Do we have the top pick?
Yeah.
They seem to be the one that I feel like they're very accepting from the roster moves of their fate, right? Like the Jets are like the Jets, which is always like, oh, we're going to improve. And sometimes they do. And most of the time they don't. And I think Cam Ward might surprise. Now, here's my question. Cam Ward might surprise, but is Brian Callahan a good coach, a good head coach?
Yeah.
Like, that's my big question now. And he might be.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to tell until someone kind of gets their quarterback in place, and we'll see what happens there. Okay.
All right.
The next tier is, and this is not just my opinion here, based on the markets and the odds. This next tier is the most likely NFL coaches to be fired.
Yeah.
And it starts with Mike McDaniels, number one, and then it goes to Shane Steichen, over to Brian Daboll, and our guy Kevin Stefanski. So. I put these teams in. I think I put them in reverse order, essentially, because I actually think the Browns are the worst of these four teams, and they're going to run out a hodgepodge of quarterbacks. The Giants still feel like roster-wise, even quarterback-wise, they're kind of like they're banking a lot on Jackson Dart being the future of that franchise. So give me Browns 29, Giants 28, Colts 27, because Daniel Jones is now who they're turning their attention to. And the Dolphins have a really good record the last 3 years when Tua plays. They're like 26-17 or something when Tua plays. But he's not reliable for 17 games. And cold weather is always a problem. So just kind of feels like the end of a little era there in Miami. So these are the next four teams from the bottom.
If you look at Mike McDaniel, Shane Steichen, Brian Daboll, and Kevin Stefanski, I think the guy, it's funny, who's positioned best to have a job immediately as a head coach is Stefanski.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he'll be unemployed for long, and I continue to say, I hope for his sake he does get fired, not just to collect a check, but also I think he's just with a franchise that's, unfortunately, a disaster. Daboll, OC again, 2026.
Yeah.
Steichen probably gets a job, and McDaniel does for sure, but I don't think any of those three get head coaching jobs immediately after being fired.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to defend Steichen a little bit here in that I actually think the fact that the Colts have won like 17 total games the last couple of years with Anthony Richardson being one of the least accurate quarterbacks in NFL history, they've had such inconsistent play at that position, and they've still managed to be in the playoff hunt in December. So I think people look at him as kind of that franchise has been searching for quarterbacks since Andrew Luck left, and Steichen's on a hot seat. But Steichen has done a pretty good job over 2 years. But you need to take a step forward. I think if Daniel Jones flames out, and now on his hands, you've got the Anthony Richardson failure, and okay, you're going to move over and pivot to Daniel Jones, and you couldn't make that work.
Yeah.
Well, what is your case now to try again? And take another swing in the draft, because usually the way the NFL works, if you fail once with a quarterback, you're on a hot seat. Yep. If you fail with two different quarterbacks, it's really, really hard to get that third crack at it.
And Jones does seem like a desperation type pick. The Richardson thing is going to be a strike against a lot of people there, right? Like that's one where you put a lot of faith in that. There were definitely tons of teams that liked him. But, I feel as if that failure alone will cost him. And Stefanski, quite frankly, is probably helped by the fact that the Deshaun Watson debacle's not his fault. Like, if you look at what's transpired in Cleveland, is that a failure of Stefanski with quarterbacks, or is that a failure of the front office not to give him a QB, or they tried to, and it turned out to be a complete debacle?
Yeah, I just to piggyback off that, I think Kevin Stefanski should absolutely get a second crack at a head coaching job. Maybe he takes a year to be a coordinator or 2 years, but I think he's the best Cleveland Browns head coach since Marty Schottenheimer. And that includes Bill Belichick had a decent year or two in the early 90s. That's a pretty low bar that I'm referencing, but if you can be competitive and get to the playoffs a couple times, and I think he won 2 different Coach of the Year awards. In that infrastructure, I'd love to see what that looks like.
Amen.
Hell, with like the Giants or just a team that's a little bit more stable historically.
Yep.
Okay. Next tier. probably going 7-10, but still entertaining and still catching headlines. The Dallas Cowboys at 25, post Micah Parsons trade, and the Chicago Bears at 24, trying to mesh Caleb Williams with this on-schedule tempo offense that Ben Johnson runs. So this is where I'm putting a couple of big-time national brands that people, I think that there's certain pockets of the media that would love for these teams to be good, right?
Yes.
But I just don't, with the Cowboys, I don't think their roster's good enough. And with the Bears, I just think that division, especially now that Micah Parsons came to Green Bay, that division, it's going to be so hard for them to win more than about 2 division games, and the rest of their schedule's brutal. So the Bears could actually be better, more organized. Caleb Williams could take a step. Maybe he throws for 4,000 yards. I still think it's like 7 or maybe 8 wins for a peak for the Chicago Bears.
So of coaches who just got jobs, has anybody been put in a worse position than Brian Schottenheimer? I mean, my God, you finally get your opportunity, and I have no idea if he's good or not. You just talked about it certainly runs in the family that there's coaching success, but I mean, you get the Dallas Cowboys job, right? You are in charge of the Dallas Cowboys, this national brand, and it's just a complete circus. And I'm just curious, like, this is not a established coach as far as head coaching goes. I can't think of a worse job in some ways, because you're probably going to fail, and it's probably going to be used against you.
Yeah.
You know? Your one chance.
Yeah, it's, I mean, obviously you're always going to say yes to a head coaching opportunity, especially if you're, I guess if you're like in your 30s or early 40s, you have more time to be choosy. But if you're Brian Schottenheimer and you've been hoping for this for 25 years, you just take it and figure it out. But
and it's the Cowboys. Like, I don't think a lot of people, as dysfunctional as Jerry Jones is, the Dallas Cowboys brand and job, I don't think you probably say no there. Like, there are some jobs, like the Jets job would leave me very like, I don't know about this job. But you're offered to be the head coach of the Cowboys. I think you have to take it. The problem is, I think you were set up to fail miserably.
Yeah. I guess another way that you could have phrased this tier was to just put the Cowboys in it and say, at least they're still worth $13 billion, according to Forbes. So, okay, the next tier, dark horse playoff candidates. We've got 4 teams here in this tier. Number 23, the Las Vegas Raiders. Number 22, the Carolina Panthers. 21, Jacksonville Jaguars. And number 20, the New England Patriots. So these are 4 teams that really were nowhere near a playoff spot last year. In some cases, they were ditching head coaches and in organizational transition. I think in 3 of those cases, actually. The Jaguars won like 4 games with Trevor Lawrence having signed that big contract. But you could make a case for all 4 of these teams to bounce back big time from where they were last year. I mean, the Patriots with Vrabel, you finally have a real, actual adult in the room, a head coach who comes in. He's a culture builder, toughness, the work that he did. Yeah, you've got Drake May going into his second year. So if the main pillars of an organization from, it's like ownership, front office, head coach, quarterback, if you can nail those things, everything else kind of falls into place. Kind of feels like the Patriots were off track there for about 4 or 5 years. And now maybe they're back on track with coach and quarterback. Also, if the Dolphins are rickety and maybe like the Dolphins are the most likely team to fire their head coach according to the odds. Now you got the Jets and the Dolphins in that division. The Bills are still the team to beat in that division. The Jaguars, I mean, Trevor Lawrence is still wildly talented, but it just hasn't clicked for him. There's been injuries, but as long as they have Trevor Lawrence still pretty young, I think there's some hope that maybe, okay, there's a step forward there. They were in the playoffs a couple years ago. The Panthers, we've talked about a lot on the NFL Takes edition of Purple Daily. They were really competitive in the second half of the year last year. They had 4th quarter leads against Kansas City and the Eagles, and they had a couple 4th quarter comebacks. And the Raiders are now coached by Pete Carroll, whose worst season as an NFL head coach going back to like the early 2000s is 7 wins. So, and he's in his early 70s at this point, so maybe he's not quite as impactful, but you could do a lot worse in terms of building a culture and just setting a higher floor for your franchise than Pete Carroll. That's a really tough division, but the Raiders also have a pretty manageable schedule. All these teams have pretty manageable to easy schedules. So 4 teams that I wouldn't be shocked if any of these 4 teams snuck in as like a 9-win wild card playoff team.
Yeah, I think the Patriots might be a year away, but I think that they definitely are on the right track and do have a coach and quarterback. The Jaguars intrigue me a lot. Is Liam Cohn a good coach? I have no idea. Like he's another one of these McVay tree guys, which is good, but those guys, it doesn't mean that you're going to be successful as a head coach. Now, you might be a good coordinator. On Bryce Young, here's what I'm curious now. From the start of a season, so you're 0-0, so there's not like, he slumped, he came back and played well, but he sort of had, in some ways, nothing to lose at that point in time because he had failed once, and it's like, okay, just try it. I'm really curious what type of season he puts together. Like, I'm really curious because I think he could be good, but like, can you put the 17 games together and be consistent and not make crucial mistakes? That's where I'm very, very curious about Carolina.
Yep. So there's just a lot of interesting things to watch here in this group. A couple former number 1 overall pick quarterbacks, a number 3 overall pick quarterback, the Raiders and what they're trying to do. Next tier. The tier is called, did you know that these teams won 8 games last year?
Yeah.
Like pretty close to playoff teams. Mm-hmm. Number 19, the Arizona Cardinals, and number 18, the Atlanta Falcons. So Jonathan Gannon, head coach of the Cardinals, took over. They won like 4 games his first year. Then they doubled it to 8 last year. And that division is really wonky because the Seahawks made a big change at quarterback, moving to Sam Darnold. The Niners took a big step back, and we'll get to them in this conversation. And the Rams, it totally depends on Matthew Stafford, it would seem, and his back and whether he can play close to the full slate of games. So you have the Cardinals, I think, there's probably the widest gap between how competitive they actually were last year, and even defensively at times, and the way people view them going into this season. So just keep an eye on them. And then the Falcons, quarterback turmoil last year, just a terrible decision to give all that money to Kirk Cousins and also draft Michael Penix with your first-round pick. But it's now Penix's team. Drake London took a big step last year. So that division is always in flux. Just a couple of kind of under-the-radar, really competitive teams.
Yes.
And a lot depends on Kyler Murray and Michael Penix.
They feel like the comparison to me, or the common thing, is they feel like 2 very meh teams. Like, we don't think about them a lot. And they're just they sort of hang around like gnats or like mosquitoes.
Yeah, but they could beat you,
But yes. Well, and the funny thing is, the Cardinals, to me, here's my question on them: is Marvin Harrison Jr. going to break out now? Because he had big expectations, and it probably was not. I didn't watch a ton of Cardinals games, but probably was not all his fault. But he didn't have a great year, and I mean, that kid is talented. If you watched him play in college at Ohio State, he's really good. So. And that's a Kyler, it's funny. It's Kyler, too. I think Kyler is just seen as this sort of like lost cause at times, and he's really not. He sort of bounces back and forth. Mm-hmm. But if I had to pick between these 2 teams for a potential playoff berth, I think I go with the Cardinals. I think I like the Cardinals.
Yeah, man. I don't hate that take. I really don't. But again, so much of it depends on... I think there's such a wide variance of what the Rams and the 49ers could be.
Yep.
And you'll notice here, if you're doing the math, that this is the first team from the NFC West that's hit on this. So the other 3 teams are like top half of the NFL teams, at least according to my rankings here. So that's another division that, if Stafford's healthy and the Niners bounce back a little bit, I don't think it's quite the NFC North, but it is a really competitive division where the worst team can still beat you and might still win 7 to 9 games. Mm-hmm. All right, before we get to the rest of this list here, a shout out to a Prize Picks and some of these season long. I'm on the Prize Picks app right now. Let me pull this off here so I can show this to the audience on YouTube. And they've got the season long football, I guess, squares on here. And J.J. McCarthy, 3,600.5 passing yards. You can see it right there. More or less. I think if he plays the full season in a Kevin O'Connell offense, it would be hard for him to not hit more than 3,600 passing yards. But it's up to you on Prize Picks. Really easy. You pick between 2 and 6 players, It could either be like for upcoming games, or I just showed you a season-long J.J. McCarthy option. You pick more or less on their projected stats, and you place your entry. Super easy. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more. And if you download the Prize Picks app today, this one right here, right there, folks, super easy, and use the code PURPLEDAILY, you get $50 in lineups when you play just $5. So they'll float you a couple bucks there, $50 in lineups when you play $5. When you use that code PURPLEDAILY, you also help the show throughout the season when you use that code. So check out the Prize Picks app. Also, a North American banking company helping to power these NFL takes on Purple Daily today. 6 locations across the Twin Cities, and they're here to help you just have a better banking experience, whether it's checking and savings or whether it's something bigger. You're planning a bigger project, maybe buying a home or launching a business, or you're financing something big. You'll notice a difference when it comes to personal relationships and cutting-edge online tools with North American Banking Company. Check out their 6 Twin Cities locations, or go to nabankco.com/Mackey to learn more. That's nabankco.com/Mackey. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Football.
All right, Judd. Back to the tiers.
All right.
Ranking 32 National Football League teams.
Oh, we got a big tier.
The next group has 5 teams, and it's called Feisty, but something is missing from these teams. Number 17, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 16, the Seattle Seahawks. 15, Houston Texans. 14, Cincinnati Bengals. 13, Denver Broncos. I think with all these teams, it wouldn't be shocking to see any of them in the playoffs. It wouldn't be shocking to me if any of them won a playoff game. But when it comes to Super Bowl contention or, AFC, NFC championship game, it just feels like there's a little something missing from all these teams. Pittsburgh, you got a 41-year-old quarterback that you're kind of desperately throwing out there. Now, Pittsburgh would come back and say, we've had Mason Rudolph and Mitch Trubisky at quarterback and went 10-5 during a 15-game stretch a couple years ago.
Right.
Seattle feels really like well-coached, competitive. No matter what iteration of roster, Seattle for 15 years has just been a really competitive, feisty team.
Yep.
But it doesn't feel like they have an elite defense. They traded away DK Metcalf, and so, they got Jackson Smith and Jigba for Sam Darnold. But it's also going to depend on Sam Darnold outside the Kevin O'Connell system. Houston took a little bit of a step back last year. Can C.J. Stroud get back to playing the way he did as a rookie is a big question. But I think they downgraded their offensive line in the offseason too.
Oh, yeah, the Vikings know that.
Yes, they do. Ed Ingram, is he starting for them?
I believe he is. He was last time I looked.
The Bengals are missing a defense. And the Denver Broncos, awesome job by Sean Payton with Bo Nix last year. But I still wonder, is Bo Nix just like a high floor, low ceiling quarterback that's operating well in a Sean Payton system, or is there more there and we're going to see it? And Denver also has a good defense, but these are 5 really competitive teams, but just feels like something's missing when it comes to winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I feel like Denver could be in the next tier. Like, I do like Denver. Cincinnati, my God, they've got these. I mean, you got Joe Burrow, you got Chase, you got so much talent offensively, but they are just so poorly run again. And it's disappointing because I thought when they went to the Super Bowl, I felt like they had turned a bit of a corner in how they were run. And now Joe Burrow he's on the precipice of just deserving better. He might be the Stefanski of quarterbacks. It's like, what are we doing here? This guy should be on a competent team. Yeah, Houston, I think, could turn it around, assuming that Stroud now in year 3 can sort of go back to his first year. I'm totally with you on Pittsburgh. And Seattle, I don't know. And that also goes back to the division's good, and it's tough, and you're going to play some good teams. And can Sam Darnold put together now, without Kevin O'Connell as his mentor or his guy there, can Sam Darnold prove his worth now? Because that's the thing is there's pressure on him. A year ago, what was the pressure? I mean, he knew that he'd probably start here for a year. Kevin O'Connell did a great job. The coaching staff did a great job. And I'd say a year ago, Sam Darnold literally had nothing to lose. Like it was the last gasp. If it doesn't work, you're just a failure. Okay, so now he signed a contract, and he's going to be well compensated, and yet that contract's not really nearly as long term as it looks. I think Sam Darnold's
a 1 year deal.
Yeah, I think Sam Darnold's under a tremendous amount of pressure, and I'm with O'Connell gone from his life. I have some question marks.
Yeah, it's like in some ways he's under a lot of pressure, but in other ways, I don't know that the expectations in Seattle are that they are a Super Bowl contender yet, too. So there's like different levels and waves to pressure there, but it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. Okay, into the top 12 here. The next tier is don't be shocked if they play in late January or maybe beyond. Number 12, the San Francisco 49ers. Number 11, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 10, the Green Bay Packers, who I think a lot of people outside the Purple Daily sphere would say they should be higher after the Micah Parsons trade. And then number 9, the Minnesota Vikings. Now, we went over on Friday all the reasons. We literally did a tail of the tape for like 30 minutes on the last State Fair edition of Purple Daily of like the 5 or 6 key areas, Vikings and Packers, and who would you give a check mark to? You know, offensive line, defensive front, quarterback, head coach, etc. And it was mostly check marks for the Vikings. Maybe we're being too homerish. I don't think our show is just homerish for the sake of being homerish, but kind of feels like they're taking away a really good player in Kenny Clark. They are upgrading with Micah Parsons, but they're also giving away 2 first-round draft picks. A lot of pressure on Jordan Love to be that guy immediately that he hasn't been yet at any point in his career, except for like maybe a month and a half stretch, the end of his first year starting. San Francisco, they're going through a little bit of a roster changeover. They're saying goodbye to some weapons. Christian McCaffrey is no guarantee to be healthy. And now they're paying Brock Purdy to carry the franchise more than he ever has. But I'm going to give Kyle Shanahan some credit because pretty much every time with San Francisco that they've had a bad year or they've missed the playoffs or something derailed, they've bounced right back the next year and have gone to like the Super Bowl or the playoffs or whatever it may be. So he's a great bounce back coach. And I'll throw the Buccaneers in here because what they did offensively, and they have a feisty defense, that is one of the most under the radar dangerous teams in the league. And Baker Mayfield has finally become the quarterback that people thought he would become when he was drafted number 1 overall all those years ago. So just keep an eye on the Tampa Bay Bucks in the NFC too. So these are 4 NFC teams, 12 San Francisco, 11 Tampa Bay, 10 Green Bay, 9 Vikings.
San Francisco feels like the polar opposite of the Bengals because their infrastructure, I think, helps them a ton. And I think they're well coached. I think they're well run. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine like Joe Burrow there with that infrastructure and steadiness? I would say of these 4 teams, it's interesting. So I'm very mixed on the Packers because Micah Parsons is going to or should improve their defense. They've also upgraded for the first time in forever, legitimately made an attempt to at wide receiver. But of these 4 teams, I would say if I had to rank, is the season a failure if you don't make the playoffs and win a playoff game? I would put the Packers 1. I think the season is a failure. Now, the Vikings, I want to see them make the playoffs. I want to see them win a playoff game. But I don't think that they are in that group. But when you do what the Packers have done, and you have Jordan Love, and you're now paying him, and you now have wide receiver talent, I think of among these 4 teams, the most pressure. Like if you wanted to pick one of these 4 good teams and say which coach could immediately be on the hot seat, and I like him, I think Matt LaFleur.
Yeah,
there's tremendous pressure there.
Agreed.
Like you don't like the Vikings have a lot of pressure, but first of all, O'Connell's not going to be on the hot seat regardless. And second of all, you are putting a quarterback into his first year of starting, and so we sort of need to see how that goes. With Jordan Love, there is no time to waste. He's being paid. He's being paid well. He's got some targets now. They just picked up arguably one of the best defensive players in the National Football League. So I think the Packers are the team with a tremendous amount of pressure on them.
Yeah. And then the Vikings, for anyone, this is too homerish, you can't have the Vikings number 9. Well, they won 14 games last year. Even if we build in for some regression, let's say they were more like an 11 or 12 win team that got 14 wins. Well, their roster got better. Defensively, they added pieces. Like the Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave additions are as impactful as you can find across the league for like filling a desperate need at a high level. And if you're going to point to Sam Darnold being swapped out for J.J. McCarthy, keep in mind Sam Darnold was a nothing quarterback going into last year. And because of the infrastructure, he elevated. So is the gap between Darnold and J.J. McCarthy really wide enough to where they'd go from 14 wins down to like 8?
Sure.
So I don't know, man. Logically, I don't buy some of the national narrative surrounding the Vikings here. One more note on Tampa Bay. So they've made the playoffs now 5 consecutive years. It started with the Super Bowl win, Tom Brady back in 2020 with Bruce Arians, but Todd Bowles has jumped in there and has won 3 consecutive divisions. And last year they were a plus 117 point differential as a 10-win division-winning team and a top 5 scoring offense with a good defensive-minded coach. So 4 really interesting teams to keep an eye on there. Okay, 2 more tiers.
It's amazing what happens when you aren't coaching the Jets. In Todd Bowles' case, like you get away from that complete dumpster fire. It's amazing how you can be successful.
Todd Bowles, different side of the ball in terms of expertise, but Todd Bowles is a great reference point for Kevin Stefanski's future. That listen, if Todd can go over here with a better run organization,
absolutely.
The next tier is fringe Super Bowl contenders. Or these are teams that are kind of trendy picks too to maybe take a big step. But Chargers at 8, Rams at 7, Commanders at 6. Rams are fully dependent on the health of Matthew Stafford. But if he's healthy, that team was like a play away from beating the Eagles last year.
I'm very
concerned. And the Chargers are charging.
I'm concerned about old men with back problems.
Yeah,
I'm really concerned about that one. That's not. Doesn't feel like it's going to end well. And I mean, what? Stafford's now, is this year 15?
09? So was he 09 draft?
Is it
or
more
10?
than that?
Was he 10?
The point is, it's been a long run for him.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah, but as of now, he's going to give it a go, and we'll see. And like the tier makers have to go with the information that's in front of them, and right now they're going to give it a go. And then the main Super Bowl contenders.
Okay.
Number 5, Detroit Lions, getting some defensive players back and healthy. Major questions about the new coordinators, and we'll see. The offensive line lost a key piece or two, but as of right now, I've got the Lions at 5, the Ravens at 4, Chiefs at 3. People freaking out because they got smoked in the Super Bowl, but like they still go to the Super Bowl every year. So, and they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Yes. Eagles number 2, and then the Buffalo Bills number 1. Again, for me, this is like the second or third year in a row I've thought the Buffalo Bills are the best team in the league going in, and then they just keep running into their nemesis, the Chiefs. But you look at that division is, I mean, there's a huge gap between them and whoever's the second place team in that division, so they should win a bunch of regular season games. And it just feels like at some point they have to break through. So Bills number 1, Eagles number 2, Chiefs number 3, Ravens 4, Lions 5.
It's interesting, though. Has the Bill so the fact that they have a great quarterback is obviously a huge part of this discussion. But in some ways, like when you look at the components around Allen, you wonder if the door is closing more than opening, right? Like when you look at their team, they're well coached, great quarterback, but like some of those teams that they had that they didn't get through were incredible as far as talent goes. So that's a really good question. Philadelphia, do you think that they stay there, or do you think that they take a step back? Super Bowl, I mean, that's a lot to come off of as well.
Yeah, if I had like within this list, right? So this is where they are right now, and there's a little projection in here with the Bills, obviously. But if I had to like fade 2 of these teams that would fall out of this list or fall further down, I think it'd be the Eagles, just because of how hard it is and how volatile that entire team was for half the year. I mean, they were like on the verge of chaos and maybe firing a head coach a couple times in the last couple years, and they bring it all together. But you also had, in terms of modern day usage rate, historic levels of touches and carries for Saquon Barkley. So I worry that his durability is going to be a question. And then if Jalen Hurts has to carry the offense, does the whole thing kind of fall apart? So I'd probably fade them. And to be honest with you, I think I'm fading the Lions a little bit with just the division and the changes in offensive line and coordinators, and like, to come so close 2 years in a row with how dominant they were in the regular season. Can they keep pushing that rock up the hill year after year like that?
It's hard to fade Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, right? Like, it's just difficult to fade them. So, yeah, and Detroit, I don't know. A year ago, I thought, okay, that was a nice story, but, he's a very demanding coach, and they're going to drop off, and they didn't. So I become almost hesitant now to do that. But it does seem like, with the North being as good as the North is now, that it would not be an absolute shock if they missed the playoffs. I don't think that they will, but it would not be an absolute shock.
Yeah. So there it is. Let me know in the Purple Daily YouTube comment section. You can tweet at us, at Phil Mackey, at Jay Zolgad, at Dex's tweets. He'll be back on the show after a couple days here. Do you wildly disagree with where some of these teams are ranked? Do you disagree with where the Vikings are?
I was going to say, are the Vikings
number
too
9
high or too low? I think they would probably be too high, but that whole group is an interesting group.
Yeah. Yeah, let us know what you think. And then don't forget scorenorth.com/unplugged if you want to hang out with us at Running Aces and watch the first NFL game of the year, just north on 35W, right off the freeway. You can look it up. It's a really fun place. Old Poker Macadac used to spend a lot of time at Running Aces back in the day.
I want to see the TVs.
Me too. I've not seen the new setup.
This might be a good place on a Saturday to drive there and watch some college ball.
Oh,
Football.
hey, they got specials.
You know what? It might be beyond screwed up, in my opinion. College football, never more entertaining, though, because you don't know who's on teams.
It's crazy.
It's actually fun.
And poor Alabama.
Oh, yeah, I feel terrible
I think
for them.
they've been fine over the years, but that team is a disaster.
Do you recall, though, pre-Saban? Same thing. The Gophers beat them in a bowl game. I think Mike Shula was their coach.
Yeah, and no longer, like, Saban had this, I mean, there was still, I'm sure, frisky business going on financially before NIL opened up, but Saban always had, through his recruiting and just his stature, just 3 or 4 players deep at each position they're like NFL players. And dude, that quarterback yesterday, that's not Tua, Jalen Hurts,
Nope.
So
Nope.
all right, we got to run here. Purple Daily NFL takes. We've got some season preview stuff lined up for tomorrow on Purple Daily. And we appreciate you hanging out with us here for the Sports Dad. I'm Phil, and this is Purple Daily NFL takes.